Probably an arson-lit fire. We've escorted a couple suspicious guys. The fire department is chicken to come up here. It's the Wild West out here. If you don't have the sheriff in town, you got to maintain the law yourself.
A new fire erupting northwest of Los Angeles.
This is your home right here?
Yeah, and pretty much there's been a history of Corral Canyon almost on punctual time. Every 11 years, this canyon goes into a full burn. We've had little minor burns, but the ones that have destroyed multiple houses have been like every 11 years. So there's this cycle that keeps going, and we just missed the Franklin fire by the skinniest skin of our teeth, and that's the burn scar right there. So it came right up to us. If it got on the upslope before the assets could get it, it would have taken out this community too.
Yeah. And that was the one that like you can see by Pepperdine and all
Yes,
this
that
area?
started in the middle of Malibu Canyon. And it's a suspicious origin of fire. I've heard that it might be a homeless fire. It could be arson, but it's also consistent with somebody throwing a cigarette out of a window too. But so that was a big threat. It burned all the way to the ocean into the colony and burned the civic center, and the city councilman lost his house. Pepperdine was totally surrounded. In fact, I have a tenant here that was at Pepperdine, and they were locked down, shelter in place at Pepperdine, and they were completely surrounded by fire. Pepperdine's a great fire break because they have that big giant open space lawn. They have ponds for the helicopters to come there and pick up water. And they've got a good defensive space around the place.
So it's built to defend against these fires that are happening here every so often.
Yeah.
These other fires that are going on now, like Palisades, did they not have that kind of protection right away? Or is it just because of the mass, how many fires are going on right now, the resources? There's not built for
the
it.
thing that really set that off was the amount of wind. I mean, it was gusting to 80, 90 miles an hour, and there's nothing you can do. Once a fire starts at that mile per hour velocity, you ain't gonna stop it.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like a domino thing. Once one structure goes, and they didn't have the water that they needed.
So $17 million cut did not allow us to do what we needed to do. And where that impacted us specifically for Palisades was our ability to move into reserve apparatus.
Some fire hydrants at one point useless.
We pushed the system to the extreme. 4 times the normal demand was seen for 15 hours straight, which lowered our water pressure.
Governor of California now calling for an investigation into those water supply issues.
If they had more personnel, they could have put out little spot fires, because it just starts off as little spot fires that you can easily put out.
Did you said there was a smaller fire right near here too, not so long ago? What was that?
That was a couple nights ago, and that was probably an arson-lit fire. But there's no proofs. You can't sometimes tie these guys to these things.
Yeah.
But our guys, volunteer firefighting guys, put it out really quick. We've escorted a couple suspicious guys. There was a van that pulled up, and they wanted to get through the blockades up there, and there was an arson watch up there, had to go over and say, hey, you can't go past there. And they were really suspicious, so she was questioning them, and They said they were from Al Jazeera. They had Texas license plates on this van. Like, that's already kind of a weird thing. She said they're Middle Eastern, and they said they were reporters for Al Jazeera. And it turned out that they were legitimate. They were reporters from Al Jazeera, but why were they here? They said they wanted to report on the fire, but there was no fire up here.
Yeah.
And it was just like really suspicious. And if you just, I don't know. I don't know if what they were trying to do is like signal to somebody, hey, this is wide open up here. This is a great place for me to film a new fire.
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't know. We can only speculate. But
Yeah.
made them stay in their car, and we had a car behind, in front, and each side. There was no cops willing to come up here.
Yeah.
And we escorted them to the sheriffs who were stationed at Malibu Canyon and PCH, and turned him over to the sheriffs.
You know, what would be the motive behind? Is it like pure people that are just arsonists?
This is an obvious land grab. They get them out of their homes this way, and then they can build whatever they want to build.
From the common refrain that it's all part of a government plot,
this is siege by design,
to suspected AI-generated video and images falsely showing the fires approaching the iconic Hollywood sign. Fact-checkers working for Meta have been debunking some of the misinformation on Facebook and Instagram.
Do any of those things like jumped out to you?
There's probably lone wolves, there's probably arsonists, there's sickos, but for ever since 9/11, I have saying it's I don't want to give them any ideas, but
Yeah.
I've always said a terrorist with a box of matches and $50 worth of flares could burn down Southern California. The Sunset Mesa is virtually like a nuclear bomb went off.
Yeah.
And if it was arson, a box of matches, like, that's a cheap nuclear bomb.
What is the way forward to kind of make sure places are more safe in Southern California? Is there a way to even prevent these kind of wildfires in such a dry, such a sparse, smokeless area?
Yes, and it's controversial because the way to save this neighborhood is for people to stay behind in this particular neighborhood. And you have to be kind of ballsy to do so, but if you have the right equipment and hoses, in 2007, we had a resident down here that bought his own private fire engine. He protected and saved the whole community down there. Ever since then, when we lost 54 houses, the community got together and we bought more resources. We went to training. We went, got hoses for everybody and taught people, like, if you're going to stay, do this, this, and that. Have proper self-defense clearances around your house. And it's like, we have to be on top of that because we're so vulnerable up here because the fire department has refused to come up here sometimes. And if they don't come up, it's going to burn if we don't stay behind. We learned in Woolsey, they didn't come up here. The reason we saved what we did is because the residents who stayed behind. Now, the city politicians don't want you to do that.
Is that illegal? Like in evacuation orders, like if you're given a go, right?
It's not illegal, but they can't force you to leave, but they will do everything they can to try to get you to leave. I've actually had the sheriffs come up saying if you're going to stay behind, you have to sign a waiver. And I've actually hidden from the fire department a few times, and the sheriffs when they've come and tried to evacuate everybody. But there's retired fire captains down the street here in the neighborhood, and they save those streets down below us. I can do what I can here. We have call fires guys here, and they do a pretty good job of saving it. And if we weren't here and the fire department wasn't here, there would be nothing here right now. What we've done the last few years, you see this yellow hose right here?
Yeah.
You want me to turn on that hose? Yeah, so that's the little like independent private fire hydrant that you can put in for, I don't know if it's $500 or $600 or something. And it's right after your water meter here. But check this out. I mean that puts off a lot of water. I can, with this hose, I can put out a spot fire up there. I can, anything on that house. Does your car need to be washed? This is actually good to water the plants because it just keeps the water level up in the plants, and they're super, super dried out. So when I'm not raking leaves, I'll go down and around once or twice a day and just water some of the plants. Especially over there, it gets really, the fire can run right up those plants, right up into the wooden fences. Anyway.
Is it like just your street that has it, or has kind of the whole
it's the whole
like,
neighborhood
figured it out?
Yeah,
Like, we should all
and,
have this.
And it's only like 1 in 10 residents that have these.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't have one because I have a pretty good accessible hose to my house, but this is more effective. And I can put another hose on and tap off his and put a third hose over to get further into my house.
Okay, yeah.
We just don't trust the fire department is chicken to come up here. And one of the reasons is because in 1996, there was a fire and 2 firemen died up here. And so that's the big legend rumor that kind of, because we have skinny little streets, and this is the big street compared to down below where they're little skinny streets, and you can't turn an engine around down there. So they're afraid to go down these streets where they can't turn around. And so they're really actually afraid to come up here. And a lot of times they just don't. In the Franklin, they bailed out of here. During Woolsey, they weren't up here. So it was just residents up here. If they think their firefighters are going to be in danger, they can't send them into a place like that. They have to be. There's a specific. Each place where they allot firemen at a certain place, they have to assess the danger level.
Sure.
And if it gets to a certain level, then they'll back out.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, once Matt, our guy who started this Corral Canyon thing, started these little community fire departments.
Yeah.
The fire department is totally behind it now. And they're training little communities to do what we've done. And a lot of little communities are adopting this same program. And it's sanctioned by the fire department if you get the proper training from them. And they'll give you equipment too. They'll help out with whatever resources you need to a certain degree. So it's catching on more and more because they know that some of these fires can be so overwhelming that there's just not enough personnel.
Yeah.
It's not just during the fires, but after the fires, there's the looting element. And the sheriffs aren't always up here. So, we've got some people who will defend this place against looters that come up here.
The California National Guard in the evacuation zone to keep people out, especially looters.
Disgusting that you would come in here and try to take advantage of somebody else's misfortune.
You know, buddy, you're always in the middle of the action.
So was it you that had the AR-15? It's the Wild West out here. If you don't have the sheriff in town, you gotta maintain the law yourself. And if otherwise, you just get exploited.
Yeah.
And I think there's been I hope the word gets out that we're gonna defend this place, and don't F with us because we'll go full Wild West on you. The AR-15, was that you?
Baseball bat would have probably been a better choice.
I got one.
Definitely.
Okay, there's a car coming up.
In it.
Oh, finished.
We got to get our Amazon delivery.
Yeah.
Rain or snow or sleet or fire.